Welcome to the Line Life podcast. I'm Jeff Postlethwaite, Senior Editor of T&D World, and today we're bringing you more stories of the grit, courage, and inspirational teamwork that it takes to be a line worker.
Hi, this is Amy Fishbach, Field Editor for T&D World magazine and host of the Line Life podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Before we begin with our audio story today in our In Case You Missed It series, I'd love to invite you to become part of our Line Life podcast community by going to linelife.podbean.com and clicking follow in the top right. You can also subscribe to the Line Life podcast in your favorite podcasting app. For today's audio story in our In Case You Missed It series, I'm delighted to feature an article from our 2025 Vegetation Management Supplement, which we publish in partnership with the Utility Arborists Association, or UAA. This supplement comes out every June along with our June print issue, and it features about 6 different feature articles and 2 columns all about utility vegetation management. This is also a topic that we cover year-round on our website at tdworld.com/vegetation management, and in our email newsletter titled Vegetation Management Insights, and also in our print magazine. If you'd like to be part of our 2026 T&D World Vegetation Management Supplement, please reach out to me at amyfishbach@gmail.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. Also, I invite you to attend Trees and Utilities, which is organized by the Utility Arborists Association and also the Arbor Day Foundation. This year, it will be in September in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm planning on attending that event and will include coverage on the Line Life podcast and also on our website. Following the President's Letter, IVM for ROWs by Matt Goff, the president of the Utility Arborists Association, and also the manager of forestry and right-of-ways for Georgia Power, we kicked off the supplement with an article on environmental conservation and wildlife protection. I know from my years of covering the line trade for T&D World that line workers often encounter wildlife when they're working out in the field. For example, they might see snakes slithering or squirrels sneaking into substations, or they might discover bird nests on top of power poles or structures. In addition, when their utilities are constructing a new transmission line, oftentimes they may be working in an environmentally sensitive area and need to find ways to work around endangered, protected, or threatened species. That's exactly what happened with Cooperative Energy in Mississippi, who found a threatened population of gopher tortoises in their rights-of-way. After this article appeared in the print supplement, I'm now narrating it for our In Case You Missed It series for the Line Life podcast. This article is titled Protecting and Conserving Wildlife in UVM, and it was written by Logan Martin of Corteva Agriscience and Wes Graham and Brad Morris of Cooperative Energy. It is narrated by me, Amy Fishbach. Protecting and Conserving Wildlife in UVM. A Mississippi utility becomes an accidental steward of a threatened population of gopher tortoises. Wes Graham holds up his hand like a sergeant halting his squad. "See him? There he is," he said. The right-of-way or ROW manager with Cooperative Energy in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, points toward a half-moon-shaped hole in the ground, about 15 feet away. A flash of a figure just disappeared into the burrow. It's unreasonably warm, and the gopher tortoises are active, doing maintenance, as he said, on their underground burrows. In the spring, the females will lay their eggs on the apron of that burrow, said Brad Morris, right-of-way specialist for Cooperative Energy. They'll start to hatch in September or October, and from the moment they hatch, they're on their own. They'll start to dig almost immediately. It's an incredible thing to see. That the gopher tortoise is here is no surprise at all. Where Graham and his visitors are standing is at the edge of, but still well within, its native territory. But the fact that gopher tortoise numbers have increased dramatically in the year since Cooperative Energy established its current vegetation management, or VM, protocol And the level to which they've increased, even Graham and Morris are shocked. If you build it, once you get past the idea of a burrowing tortoise, it's hard to imagine many other animals better suited to a life lived mostly underground. Scaled front feet and powerful back feet give the gopher tortoise both the leverage and the tools necessary for building the burrows that average 15 feet to 20 feet in length. Most of the water they need for survival comes from their diet, mainly grasses, young shoots and stems, certain flowers, and the occasional berry or mushroom. From a regulatory perspective, the gopher tortoise enjoys something of a complex status. The western populations, which include Mississippi's, are listed as threatened under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. State-level listings vary from endangered to protected. The threats faced in the gopher tortoise are, for the most part, the same as those faced by most other non-human species: fragmentation or outright destruction of habitat, predation by native and invasive species, changing weather patterns, and declining genetic diversity. Mississippi's gopher tortoise population has been noted for its low recruitment. That is, the birth and the survival rates of hatchlings can't keep up with adult mortality rates. Yet despite its vulnerability, the gopher tortoise is considered a keystone species. Its burrows, both active and abandoned, serve as homes for up to 350 other species of animals. Their diet and feeding patterns help spread seeds, contributing to the preservation of the ecosystem in which they live. And while few animals have enjoyed the protection of such committed guardians as Graham, he insists that neither he nor Cooperative Energy has ever intended to be a caretaker to an endangered species. It was by accident that we got into the gopher tortoise management business, he said. We're not doing anything but managing the vegetation to maintain reliability and create a safe working environment for our crews. In the process of creating that safe environment, however, something else happened. It's just like from the movie, Graham says, if you build it, they will come. A post-Katrina VM reckoning. Cooperative Energy's current VM program was put into place in 2008, shortly after Graham started and just 3 years after Hurricane Katrina cut its devastating path across the southeastern United States. For Cooperative Energy, the storm cleanup was a time-consuming, labor-intensive, but ultimately eye-opening exercise. Katrina showed us we had a problem, Graham said. All of our lives were affected to some degree. So in 2007, once we finally cleared all the debris from our rights-of-way, we decided to refocus on vegetation management. Working with a team of advisors from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or USFWS, the U.S. Forest Service, USFS, and outside conservation groups, Graham developed a program that for the first time in Cooperative Energy's history integrated herbicides into the overall VM toolkit. But as carefully as the program was planned, it had to be even more carefully executed. If you don't have a herbicide program ready, you can't stop mowing cold turkey, Morris said. Mississippi, especially southern Mississippi, is almost subtropical. We have plants that don't go into true dormancy, so if you go 3 years without mowing or applying herbicides, you've lost it. You're back to square one. Graham remembers the early mornings with Cooperative Energy's senior leadership, meetings in which he, as a relatively new employee, had to ask for a significant increase in the VM budget. He credits those managers with having the foresight to understand and accept the changes needed to be made, and with the trust they placed in him and his plan. We had to almost double our vegetation management budget, Graham said. So there was some hesitancy on the part of our management and executive leadership, but when I laid out what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to do it, they were more open to it. We wanted to mow and follow up the next year with herbicide treatment. The first year we did about 4,000 acres. The following year it was 12,000. Now we're spraying half our systems every year. By any standard of measurement, the program is working. Cooperative Energy's right-of-ways are carpeted in native grasses and wildflowers. Application rates have steadily dropped from 20 gallons per acre to 3 gallons per acre, all by low-volume backpack spraying. Spraying costs are less than $75 per acre, while per acre mowing and side trimming costs are well over $1,000. Utilities like Duke Energy and Tennessee Valley Authority have come to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to learn more about Cooperative Energy's Integrated Vegetation Management, or IVM, program. And then there are the gopher tortoises. Increasing the habitats. This is a special place, Graham tells his visitors. This is one of the first places we had gopher tortoises that I knew of, and they have just thrived as we have introduced IVM principles. The group is standing in the shadows of Cooperative Energy's Phil Morrow generating station, just outside Hattiesburg, Mississippi. As many as 39 active burrows are within sight here in what Graham calls Gopher Tortoise Resort. Each burrow, whether it's active or abandoned, is marked with a yellow guy wire protector. Graham tells a story of how he and Cooperative Energy came to understand the cause and effect relationship between their VM efforts and the presence of the tortoise. Just a couple of years into the herbicide program, Graham was scouting on USFS land, preparing to change out damaged utility poles. While performing an endangered species survey, he noticed and marked a handful of burrows, no more than 3 or 4, he said. He delivered his report to the USFS and was cleared to do the pole changeouts. 2 years later, after Cooperative Energy had established its herbicide program, Graham was doing a similar survey on adjacent land. So while I was there, he said, I went through the area we were in 2 years prior. I wasn't paying much attention, just marking the burrows I found. When I got back to the office and dumped the data, I said, wow, we've got a few more burrows out there. During this time, thanks to our herbicide program, we were also seeing the transition from rank woody vegetation to native grasses and low-growing shrubs on our rights-of-way. So the very next year, on another line, I went and did the same thing, and I noticed immediately the presence of gopher tortoises had increased. Graham, anxious to have confirmation of what he saw in the field, gathered his maps and waypoints and sent them to a colleague at Mississippi State University in Starkville for analysis. He called me back a few days later and said, yeah, you've got something happening. Your gopher tortoise populations are increasing, Graham said. But it wasn't just that the numbers were going up, although they were, significantly. The tortoises were establishing new burrows off the center lines, close to the right-of-way margins and out of the main path of travel for crews and machinery. When I started, Graham said, every right-of-way had a use trail or game trail going from structure to structure. That's what our line crews would use to get down the right-of-way as best they could. But because the tortoises can't live in tangled, overgrown habitat, that's also where the gopher tortoises were digging their burrows, on or close to these game trails. Once we started spraying and tightening up these rights-of-way, we saw populations increase, but we also saw burrows being moved off the center lines. Even now, years after the fact, Graham shakes his head at the simple but profound realization. Through the use of herbicides, we created habitat for an endangered species, Graham said. Doing the right thing. Today, Cooperative Energy's program is a model of integrated vegetation and habitat management. Utility vegetation management and conservation organizations from across the South and Southeast come to see the results for themselves, to learn and to offer their own knowledge. Once we started seeing the population increases, I wanted our crews to get some formal training on working around the gopher tortoise, Graham said. So we brought in an expert from Florida to see what we were doing and what more we should be doing. As a result, Graham and Morris worked with the USFS field office in Jackson, Mississippi to develop an annual certification program for Cooperative Energy's crews and contractors. Each participant receives a hard hat decal indicating they've completed the training. And while Graham insists that helping preserve an endangered species was never the goal of his program, he, Morris, and Cooperative Energy take seriously the role they've inherited. Our job is to make way for our crews to go out on a Saturday night after a thunderstorm and get the power back on, Graham said. so operationally, the presence of the gopher tortoise does cause some challenges. But from a conservation standpoint, anything we can do to help a threatened species and still provide electric service to our customers, to me, that's what we're supposed to be doing. It just proves what I tell people all the time. If you're doing the right thing, everything else will fall into place. This article was written by Logan Martin, a VM specialist for Corteva Agriscience. Wes Graham is a right-of-way manager for Cooperative Energy, and Brad Morris is a right-of-way specialist for Cooperative Energy. Before we go, I want to invite you again to register for the Trees and Utilities Conference, September 9th through 11th in Knoxville, Tennessee. And if you're at the event, make sure that you reach out to me. And also, I look forward to seeing you at the International Lineman's Expo this October in my hometown of Kansas City. Thanks again for listening to the Line Life podcast. And if you have any suggestions for future guests or stories from the print magazine that you'd like to hear as audio stories, please reach out to me at amyfishbach@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for listening to the Line Life podcast.
This episode of the Line Life podcast was written, recorded, and edited by Amy Fishbach. It was produced by Jeff Postlewaite. That's me. To listen to past episodes, visit www.tdworld.com/podcasts or find us at Podbean. You could also drop us a voice memo or message at linelifepodcast@gmail.com with your comments on this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please follow this show on Podbean or your favorite podcasting app to be updated when new episodes are released. Thank you for listening.